cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello everyone, welcome to SimRacers World TV for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters Round 9. We're at Road America. Last time out was Road Atlanta, this time out we're staying over there for Road America. My name is Hasse Rømer, I'm joined by Edward May yet again in the commentary booth, which, as always, is an utmost pleasure. And Edward, I think we're going to be in for another great race here tonight.
Yes, yeah, thank you very much, Hasse, and yes, welcome everyone here on SimRacers World TV for the Sunday GT3 Masters. An open setup round, of course. It's an easy way to remember it is that odd is open here in the Sunday GT Masters, and that means the drivers have full reign over what they want to do with their car, and they'll need to maximize, of course, that straight line speed here at Road America. The long, flat out start-finish straight is going to be key for the drivers to get a handle on, and of course, all the way down past turn 3 into turn 5 is also crucial for a lap time, but then balancing it out through where Pete Plastow is now, you want that little bit of downforce, Hasse. So, what would you do in a situation like this? Would you just focus 100% on the straight line speed, or maybe tweak it a bit and focus on making your lap time in the corners, or is it a bit like trying it at different times, maybe more downforce in qualifying, then take it all out for the race?
It depends on the preferences of the individual drivers, I think, in these situations, because it's compromised tracks are never really easy to get it set up for. I tend to prefer something with a bit more downforce. I know the car is that little bit easier to drive. It tends to pay dividends for me, at least, when I race, and I don't make the mistakes as easily, and the car's a little less twitchy to handle. But it is true what you say, Edward. It's one of the things that I love about Road America. It's a flowy circuit, and it's a circuit that actually presents itself with quite a few opportunities to actually get some overtaking done, especially in these GT machines. So I think we're going to see a really good race tonight. Of course, we've got the kink as well, which always could get kinky indeed. And terrifying in certain cars. I think the downforce of these machines are gonna help a little bit compared to having to do it in a Porsche Cup machine or a GT4, for instance. But it's certainly still a very interestingly so, do not have our championship leader on grid for tonight. And what kind of implications do you think that might have for the standings, Edward?
Well, we don't really know until the last round of the championship. You'll never know how much can get clawed back in the last rounds if some of his closest rivals can maybe take points away, or maybe if Eric Luke, who's just come in, we're not expecting him to do too well in terms of the championship standings, as he joined just last time out at Road Atlanta. There's another driver actually I think has joined for this evening and hopefully for the remainder of the season, Remco Barlow for the WPR Racing team. You can see him there in the BMW M4 GT3, a car that I'm very, very fond with. So good, so strong as well. Recently in the field of iRacing is that a lot of drivers, if they have an option to choose a car, they are picking this BMW.
It does seem to be the way to go for stability and speed in a very mixture indeed in the BMW, and actually a car that well, it got quite a bit of stick. Let's just say it as it is, Edward. It got quite a bit of stick when it came out for the nostrils and the way it looks, and I think for me personally, I think for a lot of people as well out there, it's grown on people. It's one of those things that just become better the more you look at it, and that's a good thing. That's what gives things longevity. But let's just... I
think we've talked about this before, Hasse. I always liked it. I always enjoyed it. I was one of the few people that when it came out, I really was quite in love with how it looked, and I think it's, yeah, like you say, grows on you more and more. But maybe I was biased because I was driving it so much and doing all right in it, and well, you can just see actually, I think it depends as well on the livery. You can see these darker sort of blacked out liveries. They do sort of help the car a bit in terms of how it looks.
Yeah, and a nice looking livery for Remco as well here, the WPR Racing team. First outing in Sunday GT Masters. Of course, brought to you by SimracerCoin. To explain what SimracerCoin is, well, I've struggled a bit before. I'll do my best to make it maybe a little more accurate this time around, but it's a blockchain-based cryptocurrency that, well, is the idea that it should be or could be used for of funding both series, but also as a sort of in-game economy for a series where drivers could potentially have to actually pay for damages to their car and stuff like that, which all of a sudden it's only the imagination that sets boundaries for the levels of let's call it immersion. We've got lots of immersion in terms of the simulator and stuff. This I think we could call financial immersion. So for those well off enough to do so, well, that could be interesting. And of course, it's also interesting to follow along based cryptocurrencies. There are plenty of them out there, okay? So there could be some money to do. Anyway, to the race for today. We have 4 minutes left of practice. I'm just gonna quick run down through the standings, the championship standings. It is Matthew Forrest who's break here today. 196 points, my apologies. He's been elected to his name so far, and thus he leads by 26 points over Pete Plastow. Bart DeYoung at 150 points. And then we've got Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian, in the Ferrari as well, 138. Koen Mulder, I'm sorry, that's Timothy van der Broek. Next one up. Top BMW with 104 points. Then Koen Mulder, our reigning champ, points, and not quite the season that he would perhaps have been hoping for to defend his title at.
Yeah, maybe not. However, it's not all over and done with just yet. We know how consistent Koen Mulder can be. Doesn't seem to get it over one lap, but over the course of a race distance, he is very, very strong. Picks up the points where others drop the ball. In fact, that was the story last time out as well, wasn't it? Koen Mulder wasn't that quick, but still carried on nicely and got a good haul of points come the end. All those around him made a few mistakes here and there. And it's another driver, Pedro Aron Cladera, in what we like to call the Miku machine, the Good Smile Racing livery on that Mercedes AMG GT3. And that's the car actually I was driving just a little while ago. I was involved in a sort of a fun muck-about Friday race series that isn't broadcast, just, you know, a few friends drive around, and it is actually quite a nice bit of kit now. I found that when they initially changed the tyres on the GT3s, it was a bit of a handful, very sort of weird and twitchy, but they've got it back to how it used to feel. And my, around the hills and undulations of Road Atlanta, it was an absolute blast. So we're going to be able to see what Pedro can do here. It's a car that I think has surprised a lot of people just with how long it's been staying up and how long it's sort of been popular with a lot of drivers.
That's very true indeed, but it's a thing that GT3 of the real world has had in common with iRacing, is that, for instance, the Bentley Continental, a car that we do not have in iRacing, sadly, did have a very, very long shelf life as well. And because of the BOP that's implemented over any race on the planet, well, it's sort of easier to have a car and then have it race for more than just one season, which is of course a manufacturer's wet dream. You don't necessarily have to come up with an entirely new car for every season of racing. It doesn't cost quite. Last minute of practice is upon us, and it is Gaston Macaroni who's leading at the moment. He's done 12 laps. This is in the 13th at the moment. The 48 Mercedes, by the way. And it could be a little different from what we saw last time out here with the open setups. We'll really have the opportunity to come in and tinker a little bit with the balance of the car and just how it reacts to the bumps and the curbs and downforce levels and all these things that maybe doesn't make spaghetti meatballs into a chocolate cake, but it can certainly make the spaghetti meatballs a lot better.
Yeah, I think you've got very good with that analogy there, Hasse. As I've just seen Nick McLaughlin in the chat wishing everyone a good luck, a good race as well. He's currently in 11th place in this practice session, but can he crack into the top 10 in this qualifying session that is now just getting underway? The cars making their way out of the pit lane and onto the racetrack. Look at these two almost inside each other. You can see now it's Koen Mulder out on the circuit in front of everyone else in the Ferrari. What can he do as Timothy van der Broek is looking to have a good turn of pace as well. So the cars Hasse onto the outlap, trying to get some heat into the tyres. How crucial as well is track position and maybe getting a bit of slipstream around here?
The slipstream can aid you massively indeed. Of course, you want to make sure that you don't get held up on the lap. It's fairly logical to say, but the slipstream indeed can help you quite a bit. You have long straights, and especially if you set your car up in qualifying with that little bit extra downforce, catching the slipstream of a quicker car up ahead can really make the difference. In an open session like this, well, actually could see drivers going for this strategy legit and trying to really make the most of being behind someone. But I still think that most of the drivers would just prefer to have that bit of track to themselves, which I think is what we're seeing here at the head of affairs here. Timothy van der Broek first out the box. We've got Cone Mulder. I think that is Remco BMW as well. Or that isn't. That's one of the virtual racing compound BMWs. So, my apologies. Anywho, we are going to see who are going to take pole position here. A very open practice, and usually some of the usual suspects at the head of affairs are to be found in practice, and I'm intrigued as to if it's going to be the same picture that we're going to see here in just about 13 minutes time at the end of qualifying here.
Yeah, I'm also intrigued to see that there's no Lamborghinis. Obviously, all of the GT3s on racing, I think, are available for everyone to take part in, but I can't see any Lambos out on the circuit. But there are a few Porsches, obviously the new car on the block in iRacing. You can see one of them now, Craig Thompson in the virtual racing compound Porsche GT3. And there has just recently been, of course, the announcement that iRacing will be having the new Porsche Cup coming, so that's something to look forward to. And from what I saw of the release footage they showed of it, you can actually have four-wheel slides in that thing, so maybe that could be a sign that a new and improved tyre model could be coming as well.
But I've been able to do that in the old Porsche Cup as well, if you treat it right.
It's a bit harder, I think, in the older Porsche Cup.
It's a little bit difficult to do so, and I think a lot of the Porsche lovers that frequent iRacing will be very, very pleased to see the new Cup car come along with this machine, the 911 GT3R. Was indeed relatively recent introduced. Something to cherish here that we haven't mentioned yet is the fact that we have not just one. If Matt Cicero actually takes to the track, we'll have two Ford GTs lining up for Apex Tech tonight.
Oh yeah, that was good to see the Fords still going strong. Just listen to the sound of it. I hope we can go on board, Hasse, and actually just listen to the Ford GT in its home environment. Road America, the American car. Listen to that V8 motor.
And speaking of longevity, Edward, this car has been around for a fair number of years by now, and by that I mean that it is quite old. And
almost older than me.
To see it racing under current regulations, so to say, it's an absolute joy, and I think it's such a great thing that we still have it here.
It is. It's a wonderful little car, this Ford GT. Just seeing it now coming to one of the more modern entries on the block. In fact, actually, I think it's so new that it hasn't... Actually, might have seen racing competition now. I can't remember how, so I don't think this car has actually seen open competition in real life. This BMW, obviously, it made its debut in iRacing as sort of a prototype. And now Timothy van der Broek has got it onto original pole position just ahead of Gaston Macaroni in the virtual racing Mercedes. So two cars going very strong here, the BMW and the Merc, with then three Ferraris right behind Valdez Suarez, Nick McLaughlin and Pete Lasdau make up your top 5, but it is early days in qualifying. These are the first times coming through onto the board because it's a long, long lap here. So the out lap and then flying lap does take a bit of time to come through.
It is a long lap indeed. It's those tracks that are... I think once it goes under your skin, once you really get into how it's done, it's one of those tracks that for me at least are really, really enjoyable just to get into and drive, you know, and it's a good track to race as well. It presents, as I said earlier, plenty of opportunities for overtaking as well, but certainly a joyful place to swing a car around, at least in my opinion. And I think a fair few of the drivers today will agree with that. Currently a 10th and a minute or so for Timothy Vanderbroek, but I'm surprised. Don't see any changes at the head of affairs, at the head of the standings before qualifying ends.
Yeah, so Timothy Vanderbroek up to the line. He will come. No improvements at the moment, but he's got a good time in, a good bit of breathing space. We're going to see Gaston Macaroni now actually exiting the pits as first time on the board for Eric Luke. We'll see the virtual racing compound driver up onto the second row in third at the moment. Obviously a driver that made his debut last time out at Road Atlanta and now at Road America. He's still hitting that stride very nicely indeed. The 709, very, very good at the moment. Aldo Suarez, a driver that is very popular actually. Oftentimes when we see drivers being cheered for in the comments of our videos, it is this man, Valdir Suarez, the 31, with what it seems like the whole of Brazil behind him. What can he do, though? Can he channel that support into a good qualifying lap?
Well, hope for Valdir to do well. We've seen him do well on so many occasions. A long-time participant of this series as well. This season seems... I don't know whether that's down to real life getting a way of practicing or can be so many things.
I think
it seems he hasn't really found his
season, Hasse. He was a bit unlucky.
Yeah, and he hasn't really found the melody when he's been racing. He's missed a few races as well. He is here tonight and seemingly on the pace in a way that we haven't really before. So hoping for Valdir Suarez Jr. to be in the mix front of affairs and in there to spice things up as well. Of course, the former Holy Cow Racing, now Rebel Racing, Martin de Jong and the Audi, and another one of these drivers, Edward, that tend to do very well in terms of consistency in the races, and not that we don't see him at the front of affairs in qualifying sessions as well from time to time, but it's more often than not that he finds his way through the field from starting like last time out. Started as low as 11th, ended up on the podium anyways, and that kind of performances come, well, I was sort of expecting from Martin de Jong. He's really making a name for himself. The Sunday GT Masters.
Yeah, twitchy it is though.
Indeed,
Very twitchy car.
When we've spoken to him in the interviews post-race, he's mentioned the fact that the Audi is indeed a very, very lively machine, and I think it translates the speed into ability to change direction rather quickly. But whether that's controlled or not, it's up to the driver in the end. Never been the easiest of cars to handle, but it's a fast car when driven correctly as well.
There it is. It's a very nice car. I haven't actually had the experience of driving it, but from what my friends and people that I race with on iRacing tell me is that it's one of these cars that you need to get the setup absolutely nailed down and try and get it as stable as possible. Here we can see Spaceballs the Ford there. Matt Sissler, 93, trying to go absolutely ludicrous with the speed in his Ford GT. Can't quite find there just yet. I think that was maybe an outlap though, that 2-minute 23. And then we're going to be able to find what he can actually manage in these last moments of qualifying. Interesting, though, that Vanderbroek on pole position still from that first lap he did in qualifying has been enough to keep him ahead of Gaston Macaroni. And Eric Luke still third. A lot of support in the chat as well. I can see messages now coming through for Valdir Suarez Jr. up in 4th place. Going to be starting, of course, on the 2nd row as it stands. Track temp as well, bottom right-hand corner of your screen, 23 degrees. Ambient air temp 19. And while the sun is shining, even though the air temperatures are down, I think the sun on the tarmac could be allowing it to heat up just slightly. Maybe not to a ludicrous degree. Oh, Matt Sizzler, big moment there. Very good avoiding action being taken by the Mercedes there. That was just one small moment. I hope we can get a replay of this. Just tapping a wheel onto the exit on the power, and that sent Ford into the wall.
There's a lot of grass on all sides, on pretty much all corners here.
Oh, Gaston's pole.
Gaston Macaroni's taking pole position, provisionally at least here in his AMG GT3 machine. And
Eric's up to second.
Eric Luke has tipped Vanderbroek into 3rd place as well. Look at the Cohen Mulder being held up behind here, I'm afraid. And I don't think the Dutchman will be particularly happy about this. On the tail of Damien Kova, the pole, another of the Ferraris. Struggling with getting his hot lap in here. Will be just what he can get out of it. But Gaston Macaroni now on pole position, showing that the pace and practice for the Argentine driver certainly is anything but a fluke. And interesting to see if this time's gonna hold out for the last 3 minutes of qualifying here.
Yeah, and I'm amazed that this time has come through from Gaston Macaroni. Obviously, he showed good promise in the practice session, but Gaston hasn't necessarily been the fastest over one lap. It's his consistency that's been one of his strongest suits, but he's showing now the ability to lap very quick over one lap, and it seems to be these cars that are maybe slightly more stable platforms. We see Cohen Mulder very wide, does good to regain control of the car. We're going to see a replay here. Just gets onto the power a little bit too early, understeers out onto the grass, keeps his foot pinned to give him credit, rejoins onto the circuit, a bit of a switch, bit of a slide, regains control. Grass as well, all over those tyres. That's very good to not make a mistake coming through the kink. So, what can last season's champion do to try and get something from this qualifying session? Because starting, I think, in where he is at the moment, 24th, will not be the qualifying session he'd be hoping for, as we now come down to, I think, the only McLaren on circuit, and it is Rob the Lobster.
It is indeed. The flame-spitting beast is up to its usual business. And another one of those cars that has a few years on its back by now. Older. It's for not even 3 generations of McLaren GT3 machines ago. MP4-12C, but it does indeed spit flames, and for that, we love it. I think Robert is in the boat with us in that sense. Currently 4th here. On track still is Peter Plastow. Got 4/10 in the bank on Valdez Suarez Jr., who got very close to Remco Barlow. I think just quickly jumped into the pits after his lap. As Valdez Suarez. Interesting to see how some of the drivers take wildly different approaches to their qualifying sessions.
Yeah, not a bad lap that from Valdez Suarez. I've just noticed some of the times coming through. There's actually quite a jump from 12th down to 13th. You can see Dirk Wesky there with a 205.5. Then you go down to Steven Orell, 13th place, 206.2. So there is a definite jump here. The field is almost sort of cut in half by that. So that means we might start to see packs split apart in the race. There might be a pack from the top 10, top 12, and then the rest having a good fight, which does mean, of course, there'll be some interesting battles coming on, because look at all of those times from that top 10 in the mid-pack. There is at least 3 drivers all within 2-minute 5.2s. It's going to be very intriguing, though, to see if Valdez Suarez can crack into the 2-minute 4 barrier and find out if there's any more pace in that Ferrari. Now the checker flag has been waved. This is it for all drivers currently on flying laps. Going to follow, I think, Valdez through this final half to see what it can do coming up to the kink now. You want to keep it as pinned as possible. Just send it through, hope it sticks, and he's going to be getting a nice bit of slipstream actually from the car in 19th place. That is Stuart Jacklin, privateer entrant in the Porsche. Hard on the brakes goes Valdir, then through Canada corner, trying to get the exit. Nice. He doesn't run too wide, but that can help him out through here onto the power. On board, look at this, trying to hit the curb. Got the power nice over. It has to take a couple stabs. This probably won't be enough for Valdir Suarez unless he can really nail the final corner, which he does on the power, using all of the exit, getting a good bit of slipstream as well, all the way up the hill and up to the line. What can Valdir Suarez do? What can he manage from this last lap in qualifying? Breaks the timing beam, and it's a 2:05.7. Not enough for Valdir to improve, but he will be starting, at least hopefully for himself, on that third row of the grid in 5th position. Martin de Jong out on an outlap, so won't be taking any part in qualifying in terms of setting representative times. But in fact, it's just him and Valdir Suarez out on the circuit. So with that, Hasse, qualifying is over, and Gaston Macaroni, I think this is going to be his first pole position of the series.
Indeed it is, and congratulations to Gaston. That achievement is a deserved one indeed. He's been here for a long time as well, and steadily improving. You mentioned one of those very consistent drivers that I think it looks very promising for Gaston here for tonight. Can pull off such a lap, not only in practice but in qualifying as well here. Martin de Jong fits in, and let's see if we can get the standings up, or if we'll have to wait a short second. As per usual, I was about to say, grid order, not quite yet. So as it is, I think I should probably give a little notice to the drivers in the league Discord about hopping out of the car when qualifying's over, which could mean that we could bring you the grid order all the sooner. But we'll be happy to have a few more seconds to talk. Thing that Ed and I have in common. We are good at blabbering on for we can do so for a long time indeed. So let us not get too carried away. That said, I think closer to a grid order. Not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet, but it will be up very soon. And that will, of course, see Gaston Macaroni on pole position. And now we do have the cars up on the grid. Like we said, the Argentine takes pole by the thinnest of margins. 1:76 is the gap to Eric Luke. 7:09 on the front row, with Timothy van der Broek, who had a very good time in qualifying at the start but wasn't able to improve later on in the session. He'll be starting on the front of the second row, with Pete Plastow, Virtual Racing Compound, alongside in 4th. Valdir Suarez Jr., first of the Ferraris, in 5th, with Remco Barlow alongside in 6th. Nick McLaughlin will start 7th ahead of Martin de Jong in 8th. Nicholas Cacato, another Argentine, up in 9th ahead of Chris Roberts. Sander Kaffer will be starting 11th ahead of Dirk Reski in 12th. Then we come to Stephen Orell, who will have Pedro Cladera alongside, with Nino Vinaragre in 15th. Brun Kolak in the Rebel Racing car, 16th place for him, with Savino Mililo 17th, Niels Cornelis 18th, Stuart Jacklin 19th, Robert Van Heuvel in 20th place ahead of Chris Pio, Alfredo Tricarici. Cohen Mulder, championship, last season's champion, starting all the way down in 23rd. He'll be hoping for a lot more from this race, with Craig Thompson alongside him, I think, hoping for much more as well. Then we come to the pole in 25th, Damien Kober. Timo Pyer, the lone Finn as well. He'll be starting 26th. Cody Steeg then will be 27th ahead of Matt Sisseler, another American, Barry Waldron, 29th, with Sven Dalemans and Jose Godinho not setting times in qualifying. They'll be starting 30th and 31st.
Interesting to see how a 30-plus car grid is going to make it through on the first lap here. Could be tight, tense, and a little bit twitchy, but we'll see. Hopefully, an easier time than last round at Road Atlanta, which indeed became very, very atrocious. We've got Gaston Macaroni on pole position, the Argentine alongside an American with home track advantage. It's Eric Luke on your left, and on the second row, it's Timothy Vanderbroek, Pete Plastow, as they wait for...
Gaston's gone.
And he's gone early, and we're green, and he's got a very, very good run. And look at Vanderbroek, here's up the inside of Eric Luke, and the 611 BMWs passed him already before the line. Now that's not illegal in this series. Now look at Valdez Suarez Jr. there on the inside of turn 1. That's incredible as he sends it upon Pete Plastow, almost gets it done. Very skillful of both of them to stay clear of one another. Martin de Jong's is having a hectic time alongside Nick McLaughlin as well. I think we've had a slight issue, I'm afraid, for Damien Koba here, down by one of the Porsches and the Audis. Further down that's Nils Cornelis and Orkun Kolak finding themselves worthy adversaries indeed. Everyone.
I think Kakato and Martin de Jong are having a bit of a battle up in front as well. They were going side by side into turn number 5. Wherever they come out, just behind though, you can see now they're still side by side. Actually, Hasse now coming up through turn 6 and 7. They're going to keep this try and go for a whole lap. No, not quite. Kakato backing out, affording the track space to de Jong, but it's going to lend on the exit, trying to go around the outside now of turn 8 before the carousel. Trying everywhere to get through, but trying as well not to get caught out, as you can see there. Chris Roberts looking for a move, trying to find a way through in the virtual racing compound. Porsche getting on the power a little bit too late, trying to take a few stabs. That's the case of the dirty air hampering him. Cold tyres as well through the kink on the opening lap. Does obviously require a bit of a lift with full fuel on board. To find any space, perhaps trying to take advantage from a mistake maybe from either of these two drivers in front into Canada corner. Look at this, right, de Jong, very good exit. He'll be able to, I think, secure 8th place for the moment and see if he can get now onto the back of Nick McLaughlin. Front of the field though, Eric Luke trying to find a way past Gaston Macaroni. Gaston had an amazing start to the race, blitzing away, but he's been caught in, reeled in by the BMW, who's going to be getting ever so big in the rearview mirrors. It's big enough as it is, but it will definitely be that much larger now as he goes to the outside, tries to find a way through. Is he going to feint to the inside? That's a no. Stays behind for the moment.
Peter, close racing on the opening laps here. I think one of the leaders just caught the gravel on the outside of turn 1, and that's a dangerous thing to do. And you can see it's 4 cars basically within the space of a second or so, actually 0.8 of a second. This is what separates the race leader from Pete Plastow at the moment, so very, very close running. Valdez Suarez, Remco Barlow, Nick McLaughlin, all of these drivers still in with a shot here and in behind. Look at Martin de Jong still having to defend himself heavily as well from Nicolas Cocato. And we're seeing all the action here in the opening laps of this race, but with not that much of the drama, and as I'm afraid we've seen some of it here because Dirk Reske has had an off here in his BMW.
Okay, so just I think cold tyres get on the power that little bit too early. And of course the bump on the inside that can catch drivers out if they take too much through turn 5. It's unfortunately seen Dirk Reske running off and running out of road, coming out of turn number 5. So what we do, he's going to probably get back out onto racing speed, but at the back of the field, yes, you can see him coming around now in 27th place. So it's not the end of the world for Dirk Reske. A long race still to go, as this was Pete Plastow going for a move on Timothy Vanderbroek. This was for 3rd place, and he muscles his way through just about fair and square there, and then coming up the crest, blind entry as well into that corner. You never really can see the corner until you're just at the crest, and you have to kind of turn in with blind faith that the corner is going to be there. So, cracking overtake. Gaston Macaroni now with maybe some breathing space, but that could get eaten up down this start-finish straight. Hard onto the power. He's going to be trying to use all of those cylinders, all of those 8 V8 cylinders going through, roaring its way down the start-finish straight as Remco Barlow now is trying to find a way past Valdez Suarez. Valdez Suarez, that looked very good at the start, very punchy, very racy, but has dropped off slightly. Maybe a couple of mistakes here or there. very good defensive driving. They're holding the inside, not allowing Remco Barlow anywhere through. But this is as well, to give Remco credit, good stuff on his debut, well within the top 10, having a very solid drive, which is what he needs to focus on, is just getting good opening drive and carry that momentum forward into the next round.
Indeed. Very true indeed, Edward. So at the end of lap 2, it's still Gaston Macaroni leading. Eric Luke, Pete Plastow has gotten passed on Timothy van der Broek, then Valdez Suarez Jr., Remco Barlow, Nick McLaughlin, Martin de Jong, who's actually, I think, getting passed here by Nicolas Cocato for what is 7th place, or 8th place, I'm sorry. Yes, indeed. And where has de Jong gone? He's got passed as well by Chris Roberts, so a double overtake, double whammy. And he's finding himself down in 10th here. Let's see if we can figure out just what happened to Martin de Jong here.
Yes, let's have a look. This was Nicolas Cocato coming in. Oh, Martin de Jong just breaks that little bit too late. Turns in the car, doesn't want to respond. And if you take in too much speed into the corner in the Audi R8, it'll just spin you around. So I think what happens is there was a twitch coming into the corner. You had to quickly straighten up the wheel, straighten the car up. That's what's happened here to Doug Reski.
Oh, and he's hit the concrete bit. And that's going to be heavy damage to the front end of his car. I'm afraid here we've had a problem for Chris Pio, and the Ford GT turns in, but the Ferrari, I think, of Damien Koba is on the inside. He can't just disappear, and Chris Pio, I'm afraid, is gone for a spinner. And to complete the Kinder Egg of incidents here, we've had a problem for Nuno Vinagre as well. Goes onto the grass, and does he manage to save that? He actually doesn't, but he's very, very close to indeed. And I think a lot of those drivers that were behind of this situation would be very, very happy that they didn't caught up, but we got caught up in other stuff. And look at this here now. Eric Luke has taken the lead, and we'll do our best to bring you pictures.
Action in the back.
More action in the back here as Gaston Macaroni and Timothy van der Broek has come together at turn 1, Edward.
Oh, so let's have a look. Timothy van der Broek. Oh, that's a very strange one. He seems to just turn a little bit too much, maybe carries a bit too much speed in, lightly taps the rear of the Mercedes. That could have gone so much worse. That could have taken both of them out of the race. But as it stands, there was only a bit of scraping. And that's got Eric Luke, of course, into the lead of the race. This was Eric, how he got the lead. This was down, back straight into Canada corner, through kettle bottoms they go. And actually turning into the corner, we saw the Mercedes sort of have a bit of an oversteer moment, which is very rare to see. Usually that car is nice and planted, but we've found that Gaston Macaroni might have done something to induce that little bit of rotation to try and, I guess, counteract the sort of shortcomings of that big, heavy V8 machinery. So the race has definitely been shook up, hasn't it, Hasse, at the start? Eric Luke now leads, ahead of Pete Plastow and Valdez Suarez in the podium places. Good stuff from the Brazilian. Lots of support, actually, for Valdez. We can see Jamil Jr., one of the more recent ones, saying, go, go, Valdez Jr. So that cheering, that support is spurring him on, and he's looking to try and take second now.
Absolutely so. And these two will know each other quite well from a number of battles they had with one another last season. So I would not be surprised to see this one go for quite some time. But I think they'll have the company of Gaston Macaroni if he can keep his cool head and keep the pace that he's had in the car for practice and qualifying. And not only the start of the race as well, he could find himself coming back into it. Very, very strong start from the Argentine, but nice to see Valdez Suarez Jr. really making a name for himself and making a comeback, I would even call it, to the top flight of this series at the moment, as he's really charging on the rear end of Peter Plastow. Up ahead here, Eric Luke's now being the first driver to really afford himself some space here. We've had a problem for Martin de Jong, who's come into the pits as well. And I'll try to figure out what happened to the Dutchman. But we might... I'm struggling to figure out if anything's actually happened to it. It seems like there's a bit of damage to his right hand side front there. Although light. Could be just an early pit stop here. 10 minutes into the race, of course, 45 minutes of racing. The drivers are running with a 50% fuel cap, which means that, of course, we do see the mandatory pit stops They usually come around the 30-minute marker. And obviously, tires, not a thing they'll be taking here. Good Gaston Macaroni, the pace SD showing at the moment, Edward. He's closing the gap to the 2 Ferraris ahead very, very quickly indeed here.
There he is. So obviously the pulse. Oh, this is not a helpful camera, is it?
No,
With the big
not really,
scaffolding in the way, in the roll cage in the background. That's one of those annoying things. I think that's a similar thing in the BMW as well. I racing need to see to that, just for our benefit, of course. Obviously, we'll try and do. This is a much better shot, isn't it? Just of the closing speed that Gaston Macaroni is experiencing, and we could be on for a South American derby match now as the Argentine closes up to the Brazilian up in front. Could be a very, very spicy race to come still, as we're seeing people now desperately trying to keep the aforementioned Valdez Suarez Jr. at bay. You can see the YouTube chat. I bet they're going to be going Vamos, Valdez, Vamos, 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 but will it be enough to close in and to take second place? Because Eric Luke, wow, fastest lap of the race so far, 8 tenths quicker than virtually everyone else. 2 minute 5.2. Excellent time from the current race leader.
Absolutely so. He's going to be hard to keep a leash on for the rest of them, especially if they end up fighting amongst themselves for the lower positions. Of course, it's a nice place to be in as well when leading a race to see that the rest of the lads. So just battling it behind. Here comes Gaston Macaroni though on Valdez Suarez, not wasting any time to gain back positions. And Valdez Suarez, I think, too keen on fighting that one. I reckon Gaston Macaroni is going to be able to get past Peter Plastow as well. And that situation in itself could be what opens the door for Valdez.
Well, he didn't get pole position just as a fluke, did he? He's definitely proving that. Gaston Macaroni with a good charge up through the field. Now setting his sights on the other Ferrari of Pete Plastow. Gaston in the podium places, which will be good for him. Good for a nice, strong result. And Eric Luke basically doing what we like to call a Matthew Forrest, getting to the front and streaking off as... Oh, what's happened to Orkun Kolak?
Had a huge incident, I'm afraid, for the Turk.
Ooh.
Oh, and he got turned onto the side. But this was a lengthy one indeed. Oh, he's suffered some damage to the front suspension. He's fighting with, I'm afraid. Oh, Gaston Macaroni is off. That's, I think, is that in turn 1, Edward? No, that's not. Oh, that's not. Oh, and almost hits him on the way back. Drama seems to follow drama here at Road America. And let's see what happened. All by himself. It's in Canada corner, of course. Oh, it just goes very deep on the brakes. And onto the very slippery grass, he collects the soft tire wall and just about manages...
No damage.
No damage, it seems. He's behind Timothy van der Broek now. Gaston Macaroni, oh, he will be kicking himself as a result of that one. And I'm afraid that was all his own mistake.
So close though, was it, to the back of Pete Plastow. Pete might need a new pair of race overalls if he saw that in his rear view mirror, because how close was that to contact? I think if you are too close as Gary Waldron almost collecting the GP.
I think he touched the Ferrari when he came around as well. Let's see here, going on board.
Oh.
Yeah, he does. You hear the noise of a touch, and that is as close as it comes to what could potentially become a massive incident indeed. Because we don't want to show you Eric Luke leading the race, but we have a hotly contested battle here for second place between two real rivals here, Pete Plastow and Valdez Suarez. Got Nick McLaughlin, Remco Barlow, and I think Chris Roberts in the 77 virtual racing compound Porsche 911. Very much is on the tail as well, though it seems to be ever so slightly struggling with the famous Porsche 911 understeer. If you enter something too quickly in the 911, it's not going to do anything but plow on, is it? And then if you lift off, it's going to come around on you. So that's the harsh realities of rear-mounted engine. Nick McLaughlin under pressure now, less than 4/10 of a second. I think we've had an issue, I'm afraid, here for Cody Steek in the Rebel Racing Mercedes. Overshoots it here at turn 5. Comes around. Oh, that is great awareness by whoever was in that Porsche in that situation. 27 car, I believe that was.
Is that Craig Thompson?
It was. That's such an easy situation to get terribly wrong as well when someone has an incident right in front of you. Perfectly judged
They're
there.
going quick, closing in.
And he's gaining as well on the cars behind, almost a second down to Nick McLaughlin in behind here. So,
Well, actually, Savino Melillo is closing in actually on Craig Thompson now, Hasse. I've just seen this battle, it really starting to erupt here. The Italian is going to look for a move. He's going to have a slight overlap into the first corner as all. There's a big bit of damage there on the front of that Ferrari here, the pole of Damien Kober. And look at that, Savino Melillo taking advantage maybe of that, getting up into now 17th place ahead of Craig Thompson. So a good effort from Savino coming up through the field. This is a replay of the overtake. Just had the overlap simply done. I don't think that was fought too hard by Craig. Knows that this is all about the bigger picture, of course. Slotting back in behind. So now Savino will try and come through on Damien Kober. And Damien does have a bit of damage, I think, on the front of that Ferrari.
indeed. Behind these three competences, the Ford GT of Matt Sissler, which is in a light-hearted livery. He says he brakes for nobody. Not quite sure that's true, because he hasn't hit anyone yet, but ludicrous speed as he sets it up the inside of the BRC Porsche. That is, my apologies, that's Craig Thompson. And Robert van den Heuvel is passed. And who's that off? I think that's Damien Kober. Damien Kober's gone off. And the pole, well, wonder. The wrong one here. I want to see what happened, especially there it is. Damien Kober touches the grass. Well, that doesn't throw him off too much. Enters way
too much speed in.
Yeah, much too quickly there, and gets it wrong. It is easy to get that wrong with the downhill braking zone. Now, I was about to say the leaders, but the leader is Eric Luke, leading by 4.5 seconds of this duo.
Oh dear, it was a 10th quicker.
Oh,
whoa, who was that? That was Nick McLaughlin.
Enormous moment there for the Canadian. Gets passed by Remco Barlow on his debut up into 4th place. And we're gonna see exactly what happened there. That looked like a very, very sketchy moment indeed, Edward.
Yes, so just heads into the corner. Just, I think, on the power a bit too early. Understeers out wide. Very twitchy. Then regaining the grip. The sort of right-hand side of the car gets grip before the left. Really twitches out. And yeah, that allows, of course, Remco Barlow to take advantage. Come through around the outside. But I'll tell you what, a podium would go down like a treat for the Dutchman making his debut here at Road America. But to do that, of course, he'll have to close into these two, Valdez Suarez and Pete Plasdow, who are going to start to battle. The gap has closed in. Valdez Suarez a 10th faster on that last lap. And will now try and seek to not only close in, but also pass, as I think now the pit window is open for all drivers. So if you want to come into the pits at this stage, take your pit stop and fuel up till the end, you can definitely do so, because there is just over 25 minutes still to go. So Valdir hard onto the brakes into Canada corner. Very nice on the apex. Slight little correction on the exit, but still good nonetheless. And now what can you do to maybe get a run down this back straight? Ideally, you want about a half a second margin, because that gives you just about enough gap to close in. Of course, depending on different downforce levels, that can change. Valdir won't be close enough into the first quarter, but he can definitely get close enough to put the pressure on, as we will now come to a replay of... Oh, this is Pedro Maron Cladera just trying to go through, as Sander Kaffer gets it all wrong, coming through the final few corners. Look at this, just a little bit too much of the grass on entry, opened up the corner a bit much, and that is unfortunately the price you pay for a touch on the grass.
It is indeed. Well, could have been worse, dare I say. Could have hit something. He didn't. The car's fine. So, not optimal as we are getting closer and closer to the halfway point of this 45-minute race here. Nick McLaughlin currently in 5th position. In a battle with Remco Barlow. Barlow doesn't seem to be an easy character to shake whatsoever. Cool, calm, and collected here on his series debut. Chris Roberts in behind these two, trying to pick up whatever low-hanging fruit might be showing itself as available. Sander Kaffer, who just had this massive... Oh, another moment for Sander Kaffer. And another one of these downhill braking zones. Turn 3, always a difficult one indeed, Edward. And then over the blind crest into 4. That's a difficult one as well. Turn 5 presents a little bit less of a challenge. But then into 6 and 7. 7, this long carousel, very different from the carousel at the Nürburgring. Of course, you come down towards the kink, which in these cars, even on hot tires, is probably going to be a slight lift on the long fast bit down towards Canada Corner and the final sector.
Yeah, and that final sector, I absolutely love. The elevation is amazing. Coming into Canada Corner, you can carry a deceptively large amount of speed, to be fair, just on the nature of the corner. Momentum, of course, and then the crest of turn 13 is just brilliant, and then do the final one in 14 as well. So Chris Roberts now trying to find a way through on McLaughlin. Listen to that engine. I'll tell you what, you can say a lot about the rear-mounted engine, but it does sound absolutely beautiful. The siren song of the Porsche wailing its way down this Road America start-finish straight. Another thing actually has to about GT3 racing, which I love, is just the sort of cacophony of different engine notes. Of course, you've got the big rumbling V8s of the Mercedes, and then just the lovely, naturally aspirated wail of that Porsche.
And indeed, the V10s of the Audi and the Lamborghini to add something very different harmonically to the mix. It is a grand symphony of engines, and one to enjoy very much so, especially after the iRacing X sound update. I'm getting a little technical, but they were implementing a sound in about a year or so ago, a little bit less, but really added to the depth of the engine notes as well. And it's not always you hear it at first, but it's all in the amount of details, and as I said, the depth of sound is something that I am very excited about. Sim Valdez Suarez Jr. still on the tail of Peter Plastow, still not able to get past though. So we'll see if it's going to be possible for the Brazilian at some point. He seems to be filling himself with all the patience he can find. And I've just realized I had sort of an MC Hasse Rømer moment here with a nice little double rhyme there, Peter. Or Peter, Edward. That's the last time out you were James. Now you're Peter. I don't know what's happening. Oh, but some Peters in the pits here, though.
Well, okay. Yeah, Plastow into the pits. What can he do now? He's given clear track space to Valdez Suarez Jr. So now Valdir is going to have to go on a charge. All of the support rushing in now. You can see the YouTube chat has erupted now that this has happened. Valdez Suarez, a very popular driver. You can see why. He's never afraid to back out of a move to go for it. But he's not one of the drivers that is sort of reckless with the moves either. He's good, measured, fiery, and we're going to see if that can translate into, well, the in-lap of all in-laps now. That his big rival, Pete Plastow, is in the pits. And where will Pete come out is crucial, because if Plastow comes out into traffic, that could really hurt his chances. He's just coming out of pit exit now. Matt Sizzler, I think, is the next of the cars. And actually, yes, Pete Plastow is going to come into a little bit of traffic now. So, is this going to start to hamper? These two up in front are battling. Oh my word, this could be very strong. In fact, look at this. Who's behind now? That is, I think, Martin de Jong is going to look to try and overtake. Oh, maybe this has been a slight misjudgment. There's been an off as well. Something has definitely happened. dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Davino Melillo in the 18 car. Does he get a tap? I don't think so. I think he...
Oh, too much
does
speed.
he? I think he carries too much speed. If he did get a tap, I'm not quite sure. Godinho, the Portuguese, I'm afraid, has had an incident all by himself. And I don't think that's how he wants it to be, but he's had a very, very hard impact with the wall there, and surely not enjoying things.
So this is when the race has been blown wide open now. We've seen Pete Plasnow get to the front of this little train, so now he's going to be out on the track, fully fueled up until the end. Cohen Mulder and Sander Kaffer having a bit of a race, and Cohen has actually come back up through the field rather well, hasn't he? Up into now 10th position. And I'm amazed that if he can get his qualifying now down, he'll be very good indeed. But there's a mistake now coming through Canada Corner. All of a sudden, Sander Kaffer fancies a run around the outside, and he's going to get it to stick. Cracking stuff there from the 1, 2, 3, which we're now up into 10th place. Valdez Suarez Jr., I have to add as well, has stayed out an extra lap, as has Eric Luke. This was how Pete Plasnow got through, having to overtake down the inside of the Ford GT, and that was how he got up into clear space on the track. Okay, Barlow has actually had a chance to close in now on Valdez Suarez. I don't think we'll be looking to make a move instead into this stage race where the strategy comes through. All of the pit stops need to be made. It's not reasonably wise to try and do that just yet. Instead, focus on having a nice, good, clean in-lap and maybe see if we can get ahead of the likes of those drivers that pitted early. Pete Plasnow, of course, being one of them.
Good point. There is Gaston Macaroni now 7th place. But interestingly, he's not that far back. 12 seconds on the leader, but only 4.5 seconds down on Valdez Suarez Jr. in 2nd place. So while it might look difficult for Gaston Macaroni, by no means over yet. Have to see just how the rest of the race forms for the pole sitter for tonight.
So will Valdez come in this lap, or is he going to stay out? That is the question. How much longer can Valdez make this fuel last? Is Eric Luke as well, race leader, going to come into the pits? Yep, you can see him now going for the pit lane. So race leader comes in from one of his home races here, the American at Road America on the pit limit. Nice and early, not worrying about getting penalised for that. We'll obviously stop, take fuel on board. Look in the background as well, a whole plethora of cars coming through now. Valdez Suarez, Eric Luke as well. Nicholas Cacato, though, has decided to stay out. So Cacato will take the lead of the race. The Argentine doing very good in the virtual racing Audi. In the pits now, Valdez stops in his box, takes on the fuel, and we're going to be following this race because this is a race in the pit lane. Pole position man has to park up at the number 1 spot, takes the fuel aboard. Oh, and he's overshot actually as Gaston Macaroni, as Eric Luke now exits the pit lane. Oh, and now onto the power. Oh, as Gaston... Oh, no, sorry. Valdez Suarez lost out. I think he has now. Nick McLaughlin up into 3rd. Pete Plasnow, though, is going to try and take all of them around the outside. That was so close on the strategy, but he's been able to make it work. Amazing stuff from Peter Plasnow there. The Brit driver coming up into 3rd. Cracking stuff. Valdez Suarez Jr. has just been able to get back in front now of Nick McLaughlin. The battle of pit exit maybe going the way of the Brazilian, but look at how close they are through the pit lane. The strategy has shaken things up, but kept it very much the same, as that they're all fighting now for the podium places, trying to come through around the outside. Oh my word, is Valdez going to try and send it? No, he's hung out to dry, unfortunately, so drops back into 5th now, where Valdez qualified, of course. Can he make up that time? Can he make the ground up and get ahead of Nick McLaughlin and Pete Plasnow for that remaining podium place? We expect to see, of course, Nicholas Cacato to come in for his first and only pit stop. You can see him now coming through to what should be the in lap. What should be his move into the pits, and it is. So Nicholas Kakato coming to the end of his stint. Eric Luke, easy streak for him. Doing a Matthew Forrest, I think, up in front, getting up ahead and clearing away. It seems to be something these virtual racing compound drivers are getting quite good at doing.
Very much so. They are a dominant force in the series. Chris Roberts just got past. Oh, we've had issues, I'm afraid, for Nick McLaughlin. And he's way down the order all of a sudden. What happened to the Canadian here? And that picks up the grass and isn't really able to get out. And has a big flyer there. Keeps on the grass as well there and manages not to hit the tires in the kink. Incredible, but it might have damaged his car. We've had a problem as well for Cohen Mulder, I'm afraid. Reigning champ gets a touch and gets spun after being on the grass, I'm afraid. Peter Plastow is passed on Kukado here in the pits, so... and at the same time... Oh, look at this, Kukato's
as well, and
Kukato's up into 4th place. I'm sorry to cut across, Edward, but the Argentine Virtual Racing Audi driver doing a sterling job here over the pit stops to gain a massive amount of time on pretty much everyone here.
Stayed out in front while everyone else was squabbling amongst themselves. Excellent effort there from the Virtual Racing driver. As now Martin de Jong is going to try and find his way through. These two were locked in a titanic battle, weren't they, Nicholas Kakato and Martin de Jong? That was for, I believe, 8th place at the start, and that's going to carry on through, maybe even into 4th if they can obviously get on track together up the order. Martin de Jong, obviously very good, consistent peddler, usually races better than he qualifies, and seemingly carrying on that trend now in 7th position. But Eric Luke, what a drive it has been from him. Only 2nd race in the Sunday GT Masters, making his debut last time out at Road Atlanta. Road America, also very strong. You have to say Eric Luke got a bit unlucky, I think, not to get something, at least a podium, out of the racing 2 weeks ago, but is carrying on with a good turn of pace now into the lead of the race. Didn't obviously qualify on pole, but has shown strong, very strong, in fact, pace so far. Valdez Suarez will be hoping for the same as well, but Pete Plastow, what a strategy that was, coming in just that little bit earlier, and then the race on pit exit, having to send it around the outside. That was amazing stuff.
That was some of the best action I've seen this entire season in this series, in any series, I think, in a long, long time. That was brilliant. And it was 4 or 5 cars exiting the pits within a second of one another. And fantastic stuff to see. Look at Kakato gaining on Valdez Suarez as well. It's, wanting to get something from this. Valdez Suarez is having to close a gap of 1.4 seconds to Pete Plastow, currently there in 2nd. Also Chris Roberts having driven a very fine race, starting 10th, finding himself in 5th now, passed as well on Remco Barlau. Martin de Jong had his pit stop on lap 4. So you have to wonder whether that came a little bit too early for Martin de Jong to actually be able to finish. I at least suspect that he might have inadvertently started the race on his qualifying setup. Could that be what happened? Because we didn't see any damage to his car. He came in very, very early and it all seemed a little...
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to make it till the end, actually, having a look at that when he came in so early. And that has the knock-on effect of being a 2nd pit stop is required. We'll have to hemorrhage even more places, unfortunately, for the Rebel Racing driver. So Nicholas Kakato, the Argentine against the Brazilian. We've already had this battle once before, didn't we? Gaston Macaroni against Valdez Suarez. And now it's Nicholas Kakato's turn to try and find a way through. He's forced to go around the outside. Defensive driving on display from Valdez Suarez. And there's contact. Oh my word. Big hit from the two of them together, and that sent Nicholas into the wall. What happened there, Hasse?
Slight touch between the two, I'm afraid, as Valdez Suarez came across. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Just cuts across ever so slightly too much, and Nicolas Cocato is an absolute passenger, scrubs the wall, he's on the grass, he even takes to the air for a short second, and you know that the gravel in iRacing doesn't do a great job of slowing you down at all, and he becomes deeply embedded within the tire wall there. I'm afraid that is race over in a sad, sad way for Nicolas Cocato. And
Such a shame, isn't it? Because he was having a good race, wasn't Nicholas? It was a great drive up through the field to find himself fighting for the podium place, which I'm sure at the start of the race he would have bitten your hand off for. But sometimes racing can be a very, very cruel affair, as we see Timothy van der Broek. Oh, and did he just break the limit too much late? Send a bit too much speed in? That could have been the case now. Back onto the circuit. Timothy had a strong showing as well in qualifying, but has not been able to repeat that feat in the race, unfortunately. So what can the rest of the drivers do? Can maybe Chris Roberts snatch a podium from this? And is Rob van der Heuvel going to get ahead of Corinne Mulder?
Worthy questions here. We've had another issue as well for Sven Dalemans. Or just the touch of the grass that sends him spinning around. Oh, Nick McLaughlin has had a problem here, I'm afraid. And that could be all the more crucial here. It touches. Oh, and he's going to hit it. And he's going to hit it hard as well. And that is going to be heavy damage for Nick McLaughlin and a lot of time lost. It's another position gained for Gaston Macaroni, I think, who's down in 9th place now. Look at this here. Remco Barlow, Chris Roberts, Martin de Jong within half a second of each other. It's a shame that we think Martin de Jong will have to take that extra pit stop come the end of the race. Now we are within the final 10 minutes of this race. And there it is.
And Martin de Jong does come into the pits.
Yes.
Oh dear.
And while it is going to be a short pit stop, that isn't going to do much good for him anyways. The pit time itself.
Drop out the top 10, I think.
Oh, and here comes Chris Roberts and the Porsche having a look here to the outside of Remco Barlow. But Barlow with a brilliant bit of car positioning there.
Just about able to stay in front there. So that was excellent stuff, like you mentioned, from the driver of the BMW, Valdir Suarez. Now has kind of just in his own little bubble. Not close enough to make a move on Pete Plasnow, not closing in with the slipstream, and also just ahead enough of Remco Barlow to not be closed into, as Chris Roberts again trying to find a way through, seeing if there's any way past the BMW. Doesn't seem to at the moment, but gets a good run now as they make their way up the hill under the bridge, but nowhere through again. So Chris could be starting to get frustrated now. He does seem to be marginally faster at this present moment in time. Maybe the tyres have been worn a bit too much from Barlow's. Just got through the tyres a bit too.
Oh, Chris Roberts touched the grass on entrance there, and off he went. Off he went in a way that I've rarely seen anything like it before. It said swoop. There it comes. And Remco Barlow, I think he was a little bit afraid to get tapped by the spinning Porsche in that situation. Very, very unfortunate there for Chris Roberts, who's done a brilliant race so far. Of course, regarding the incident with Valdir Suarez and Nicolas Cocato, of course, we know Valdir Suarez as a perfect gentleman driver. Of course, there was no intention to cause a crash. That much we know. Shame to see.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of. Yeah, I think it was just a matter of Valdir being the hard racer that he is, wanted to try and maybe just squeeze a little bit, but I think it might have been, maybe not that he didn't see, but maybe that he just misjudged it slightly. Nothing malicious, of course. He was trying to have it fair and square, but that's just a tricky thing. When the cars are carrying that much speed into Canada Corner, it's difficult to judge distance between one another, and you never know what equipment drivers are using, if they have VR, if they're only running a single monitor and it's in the blind spots. Oh, a lot of damage on the front of Timothy van der Broek's car there. The entire front of it is missing, and well, some might say that's an improvement. I'm going to say no. I still missed the front of that car. It looks very, very nice. And unfortunately, I think Diddy van der Broek will be missing it as well, coming into the pits. That is probably race over for the 611 after such a strong showing early doors. Seeing him out of action.
What exactly caused Timothy van der Broek that amount of damage to his front end? Comes back on here. Front is still okay. I'm a little bit surprised to see, because I don't have any indications of another incident for him, so very strange situation there. Cornelis is on... Oh, that's Sander Kaffer, my apologies, who's actually getting past, I think at least on Nils Cornelis. The two Dutchmen. Get too much in the way of one another here. Our race leader, with less than 5 minutes to go, Edward, Eric Luke, in the 709 BMW for Virtual Racing Compound. He has driven the perfect race here on home soil and is looking very, very good. Take the win. Got a 9.5 second lead down to Pete Plastow. He can allow himself to take it easy here. Last 4.5 minutes. Plastow 2.6 seconds, as you can see, down to Valdez Suarez. Gap in the same shorter distance down to Remco Barlau. And so now here for the final 5 minutes, it seems for the first time really that all the top 5 spots have now been spread out. What a race it has been, Edward, so far.
It's been brilliant, hasn't it? I'm still sort of in recovery after that amazing battle in the pit lane that we saw. About 6 drivers coming in and out of their pit lane altogether, and then sweeping his way through Pete Plastow. What a strategy that was from him to come in a couple laps early, take the risk with traffic, get held up a bit, but then those outlaps were something else. So strong was the pace of Pete Plastow that he was able to make up that time and come through to seal second position in dramatic fashion. Of course, he had to go wheel to wheel around the outside of, I think that was one of his teammates in the Ferrari. I think that was Nick McLaughlin, actually, that he had a battle with to get up into second. But he made it stick. There's always something with Valdez Suarez here.
This is a replay from Valdez Suarez leaving the pit, so you see just how close it is with Nick McLaughlin, the Canadian. And then you'll see on the left-hand side, look at Pete Plastow. There he comes through, and the side-by-side battle. And mind you, there are 2 more cars behind this. Immediate battling. An amazing heat there on the different cars. Coming out on such a short bit of timing indeed. Oh, and even though it's a replay, still gets me all excited there in that situation.
Like you said, Hasse, is probably some of the best racing I've seen in any series, let alone the Sunday GT Masters. There's been a moment there. Sander Kaffer, maybe was that a touch of the grass spinning around, coming through. So 6 and 7. Let's have a look into the corner. Oh yeah, onto the grass. The car just gets loose at the rear. Spins on, keeps it out of the wall very nicely indeed. You can see him slamming it into reverse gear, keeping it away from danger. But of course, he's lost a lot of places. Niels Cornelisi there up into 8th place. The young fellow countryman now in 9th. With Stuart Jacklin finding himself up in a 10th place. So many different makes though, isn't there? We've got BMW, Ferrari, Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, all in the top 10.
And great to see the dominance of Ferrari in this series, and the dominance of Ferrari indeed in GT3 maybe being lifted a little bit. It seems like it's not the meta car in the same way that it was a few seasons ago, where the Ferrari was all conquering, all over GT. Whatever the track, whatever the dynamics, it was always Ferrari, the meta car. And it's nice to see that it's not necessarily the case anymore. So that's great, and we'll hope for more of the same here, as into the final few minutes of the race goes Eric Luke.
Yeah, so Eric Luke, this could actually be, I'm not sure if it will or not be, the final lap of the race. Just coming through carousel now with a minute to go. I think he might be able to get a little bit more out of this. It could be close though, wouldn't it, Hasse, at the line?
I think he's in a situation where he could actually afford to slow down to take the checkered flag here if he wants to.
9 seconds, doesn't it? 9.5 seconds to Pete Plastow.
Yeah. And I think that's gonna make the difference in the end. We'll see what he decides to do here. From Canada corner to the line, that 40 seconds in a GT3 does it.
No, I think he's going to be able to go for one more lap. 30 seconds on the clock before the checker flag is waved. Eric Luke will come now into the final corner for probably the second to last time now. Yeah, 20 seconds out of this corner up to the start-finish line. No sense backing out. Just go all the way through and start the final lap. The white flag will be waved for Eric Luke as he comes across the line. Start the last lap of racing here at Road America. What a race it has been, and there's still some more action on the cards as Martin de Jong has a battle with his fellow Dutchman Niels Cornelisi into Canada corner through Kellogg Bombs. They go now hard onto the brakes around the outside. Can Martin de Jong hold it through just about out of the gravel there? But no way through. So instead we'll look to now set up a run out of the final corner all along this this start-finish straight rather, really opening up the corner brilliantly and now slamming it down on the loud pedal. You expect him to try and close in, try and make a move into the first corner. That time is coming down little by little, so there could still be an overtake on the cards here, Hasse, between Martin de Jong and Niels Cornelisi. Look at this, Martin de Jong dipping outside, coming in now to the first corner, but again the inside line is very strongly held by Martin de Jong. Oh, there's close fighting actually. Martin de Jong, no, he's on the outside rather, trying to come through. Is he going to get the position to stick once more? They still keep it side by side. Tell you what, they've been doing a very good job all race, keeping it nice and clean. Make sure it stays that way until the end, boys. We don't want to see it all end sourly. Dead heat as they make their way down the straight. Disadvantage to Martin de Jong, but the inside line means he'll have to brake slightly early, but he gets the more favourable line into the corner and now takes 8th place. Is there going to be a reply though from Niels Cornelisi? We will certainly find out in these final few corners as we see, two Fords having a bit of a scrap potentially. Chris Pio and Matt Sisela.
Yeah, indeed. The closest cars on track at the moment, these two. And as we say that, Eric Luke rounds the final corner to take the checkered flag here at Road America for his first win of the Sunday GT Masters. And what a way to win it indeed. He wins it ahead of Pete Plaster. Let's see if it's going to be Valdez Suarez Jr. I just, for a short second, thought that was Remco Barlau actually coming out and being very close to Valdez Suarez. But the Brazilian back on the podium with third here today ahead of the Dutch debutant. And Gaston Macaroni, our pole sitter from Argentina, gets 5th place today. And I think he would have hoped for a slightly better race here. Finishing ahead of Chris Roberts, Pedro Manimon Cladera, Anime, what is it, Mikuni? Is that it?
The Miku machine.
The Miku
Hatsune
machine.
Miku.
Hatsune. Thank you. I'm not all that well in the Japanese, at least not the teams such. So, indeed, thank you, Edward. Further down in the top 10, we've got Martin de Jong crossing the line now, getting there ahead of Niels Cornelisi, and Stuart Jacklin gets 10th. Privateer in the 86 Porsche 911 gets through safe and sound. Craig Thompson gets 11th place, I think, and climbs 13 positions. I mean, he will be the king of the high risers. You so know what I mean. Anyways, we are still getting drivers across the line. We will have the results quite shortly indeed.
Good drive as well, actually, from that man, Gaston Macaroni, who had to definitely recover, didn't he, to say the least, Hasse. But with a 5th place, good haul of points, considering where he was after the incident out of the first corner midway through that first stint. Very good stuff indeed from the Argentine.
And here we go with the results. It's another 1-2 for Virtual Racing Compound. We've seen that happen before by now. This time, Eric Luke takes the win ahead of Pete Plastow, with Valdez Suarez Jr. 3rd, And rounding off the podium, Remco Barlow finishes just off with the WPR Racing Team, ahead of Gaston Macaroni, Chris Roberts, Pedro Cladera, Martin Young, Nils Cornelis, and Stuart Jacklin, rounding off top 10. 11th, Greg Thompson, ahead of Vinacre, Alfredo Tricarici, Robert van den Heuvel, and Chris Pio, ahead of his teammate Matt Sisula in 16th place. Timo Paya the Finn in 17th, ahead of Sander Kappa. Down the standings, we find Sven Daleman, Cody Steek, Gary Waldron, Cone Mulder, and Timothy van der Broek, who of course had his engine blow up. Savino Melillo was in a relatively big shunt as well. Finishes ahead though of Nick McLaughlin, Nicolas Cucato, who was in a huge accident for himself, Jose Godinho, and Damien Koba, ahead of Stephen Orrell, Okun Kolak, and Dirk Vesky. And with that said, I think it is time for Edward May to sign off for today. I know, Edward, you've got places to be, and I'll get back to that shortly, but thank you so much for joining me in the booth today, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
No problem, yeah, thank you, Hassan. I've been glad to cover all of the action here this evening. Cracking racing, wasn't it, here at Road America? But I'm going to another American circuit now on SimRacers World TV as well for the Sunday Drivers MX5 Cup, 11th round of that season at Phoenix Road. So if you are still not tired of hearing my voice whittle on over racing, then you'll be able to see me out on there in about, I think, 15 or so minutes time on the same channel, SimRacers World TV. But thank you very much, Hasse, and I'll let you enjoy talking to all of the drivers here, all the podium finishers, after this amazing round of racing at Road America.
Indeed. Thanks to Edward May for joining me again, and I will be looking forward to the next time out. In the meanwhile, I'll be heading on with the interviews for tonight, and what better way to start off than a newly crowned race winner here. Eric Luke, welcome to the commentary booth, and thanks for taking the time for this post-race interview. First win of this series on home soil, virtual home soil, if you will. It must feel good. It certainly looked very good indeed.
It was a good fun race. The beginning of it was pretty hectic, but once things settled down, I was able to pull and maintain a gap and just kind of coasted it in from there.
It looked a cool, calm, and collected up there. Was there any strategic considerations to make sure that you didn't get any pressure from under or overcuts from the competitors?
What I was trying to do, my initial plan is I knew that Gaston was very quick. He was quick in qualifying. I did not know what his race pace was. So my initial reaction was just to kind of hang behind him and see where he was quick, where he wasn't quick. And it just turns out that I don't know if I was just putting a lot of pressure on him. He kept making mistakes, and I passed him a lot earlier than what I had anticipated. So when we came down into the hairpin, I was able to overtake, maintain the pace, and then kick it off from there.
And another 1-2 for the virtual racing compound. You seem to be a very, very strong team, and the level's always there. What is the secret to your success, not just as individuals, but also as a team?
I think practice has a lot to do with it. We are always there to support each other, give each other tips, tricks, hints, everything else. Good group of guys. VRC boys are a tight-knit group. It's a lot of fun being a part of their team.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Eric, for joining me for this interview. Before I let you off the hook, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout-out to?
Big thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast and the races. Excellent job as always. VRC for having me on their team, and my personal sponsor, Viridian Education Consultants. Please check them out at viridianeducation.com. I appreciate it, guys.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for joining me. And I suppose I'll be seeing much more of you here at these post-race.
I sure hope so. Thank you.
So that was Eric Luke, our race winner for today. We're going to head on with his teammate and second place finisher. It's Pete Plastow. Pete, welcome to the booth. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me here post-race. And certainly for you, it seems not a bad result at all with second today.
Can't complain with second at all. Eric was on a different planet. It seems to be either Eric or Matt that beat me every time, which is frustrating. But yeah, good race. Managed to keep it fairly clean. Had some good battles with Timothy. Valdir was right on me the whole race, so that was a good race. It's good.
And with Matt missing the race today, it's going to put you very, very close in the points table. It's going to be very open again. Sudden. What's your thoughts on that?
I was really hoping to win today so that I could squeeze him as much as I could while he's away. But Eric stole that from me. Not bitter at all.
So maybe hoping that Eric will also be able to take the fight to Matthew in the final races of the season.
Yeah, hopefully he'll take points off Matt. That would do me a big favour. And if they're battling, then it slows them both down, and maybe I can stick with them a little bit more.
I might be smelling a bit of intrigues coming in from the VRC team.
We're all good friends, good teammates. It's all just good fun. That's all it is.
And a good fight as well for you with Valdir Suarez Jr., who's been a bit off his best level for the few last races, but is very much back here today. How did you see that fight?
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have him back up fighting at the front with us. He stayed within 2 seconds of me pretty much the whole race. So it's definitely pressure from behind. Tim had a really great race as well until I think he made a mistake with Nick at some point, especially coming out of the when they were coming out of the pits because I pitted early. That was really close.
We got properly excited for that, and I was about to ask you as well. That pit exit with 5 cars within a second or so, that was some of the best racing I've seen in a long time.
I'll speak to Nick in Discord, so I could tell him that I was going to stay left as I was coming up. But yeah, that was pretty intense. Happy to keep the position.
Anyway, Peter, congratulations on a well-fought second place and a good race in the end. Thanks for joining me. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout-out to while we're here?
Just thanks to all the drivers, really. They're all great races. The team, VRC, and Robert for organising this league. It's always good fun, good racing.
Peter, thanks for joining me, and up to enjoy the 1-2 with your team. So that was Pete Plastow, and I'm gonna head further on the podium with a driver that we haven't seen on the podium for far too long, in my opinion. Valdir Suarez Jr., 3rd place finish today. It's been a tough period results-wise for you, and maybe not being able to race as much as we've seen you before. But indeed, very, very good to see you back on the podium after a tough race indeed as well. How do you feel?
Hey, how are you? Good to be back. Yeah, I'm feeling good. So yeah, the first half of the season a little bit tough. So back and forth, so high ups and highs. But now I'm working to finish the second half of the remaining one in a strong way. And it was a tough race. I never raced here before, and really good battles with Pete, and good to be back.
Indeed, a good long battle with Pete Plastow. Also, what looked to be a very unfortunate incident coming into Canada corner with Nicolas Cucato. How did you see that incident?
I've been very honest. I saw him on my side, but when we approached the corner apex, the corner entry apex, so I thought that I could give him some space. I need to watch the replay, being very honest, and I always try to play honest and clean with my colleagues here. So you guys have more information than I at this point, but I give him some space. I don't know if it was enough, but I being very honest, I didn't feel the hit a little bit on my wheel. I saw the touch because I saw the racing scene that I had a touch, but it was unfortunately. I think it was. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened with him after that, but it was a tough situation.
Seemed just to be a very unfortunate little touch with big consequences, as it sometimes is in racing. Of course, it didn't even look intentional, so there wasn't. So I just wanted your opinion on it. Anyway, Valdir, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here post race.
Appreciate it.
Great to see you back on the podium as well, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out here while we got you on the air?
I would like to thank my colleagues from Brazil. Probably they were watching the streaming live. I'd like to say thank you to the guys. And also to Marcelo that it's helped me out on the fine tuning on the car during the race. I appreciate his support. He's my sim race engineering, so he's trying to help me out here. So I would like to thank everyone that supported me here. Thanks, guys. Good to be back here.
Great to hear, Valdir. Thanks for joining me as well, and I hope to get the possibility to talk to you again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Hope to see you soon.
So that was Valdez Suarez Jr., and that concludes the interviews for today as well. And that in turn concludes the broadcasting. I hope that you have enjoyed what you've seen here with me, Hasse Rømer, and Edward May alongside for the ride. It was a wild one as well. A very, very eventful race. A very good one. One of the best ones I think we've had this. If you like what you've seen here on Sim Racers World TV, feel free to leave us a like. Of course, should you be in the position that you really don't like what you've seen, let us know as well. And if you do have any comments, leave them in chat before I let you off there. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us in tonight. It's been a pleasure having you all along. As I said, my name is Hasse Rømer. We've got the Sunday Drivers MX5 series starting in what I believe will be about 9 minutes from now. So if you fancy more sim racing here on the channel, you know where to head over to. By the way, we're gonna have the SRW NASCAR series, the Next Gen Cup series, starting out with the Daytona 500 next Sunday here on the channel. Gonna be with myself and Marcus Gestad at the clamps. That's gonna be one to watch, not one for you. Tune in for that one as well. And until then, so long, take care, have fun.